Okay, one of the pieces of advice that I give my clients at the end of every session is if you feel the need to analyze, breathe. Because while you're breathing, you can't be emotional. You can't analyze. The other thing I also tell people is if you feel the need to be emotional, be emotional. The sooner you let it out, it's really just energy. That emotion is a frequency. It's a frequency that you're feeling. It's feedback, but let it out. When you let that emotion out, whether it's weepy or angry or frustrated, and give it its moment in the sun, it leaves so much faster than if you try to stuff it, where it will become cancer and disease. So just let it out.
Hey everybody, it's Dr. Rimka, and I have a friend of mine, actually a friend in like real life, Marie Dubois, better known on the interwebs as Mystical Marie, mysticalmarie.com, correct?
Correct.
All right. She's on Instagram as Mystical Marie Guru, and please follow her. And this is what we're going to talk about today. Something that I'm very passionate about is what's really the root cause of disease, whether it's physical or mental. I think ultimately is disruption in emotion frequency, bioenergetics. But we'll kind of focus on emotion because Marie is a certified in emotion code and body code, right? Made by the same guy. I've had sessions in this. I am not certified in these things, you guys, but I'm a big fan of helping promote other people's techniques so you can know more and have more resources outside of the traditional mainstream, very limited scope as the way to address things that are distressing you physically and emotionally, because there's often a very big, deep connection between things that have happened in our lives, that the tragedies that we've experienced that we then have informed us as trauma that we haven't let go of. And the body remembers everything. And it could be expressed, honestly, as your diabetes or your headaches or your insomnia or your cancer. All right. So Marie, why don't you take that from there and explain what I just said and how that works for you and why you got into doing these techniques.
Oh, well, how I got into doing this was kind of a roundabout way. I became a certified essential oils coach, and I was working with my clients that way. And what I started to realize is they all had something in common. And while we were working, because my approach there is much like yours and the people in your area of influences, we look at, okay, if you come to me, you have Crohn's, maybe we're going to get you some relief from the symptomology, but why? Why is the Crohn's? What exacerbates the Crohn's? Where did the Crohn's come from? And that might seem like an easy question, but often, as we know, emotions are rooted there. So I would be working with these people to help them with their symptomology and address the root of the problem. And what happens is then the emotional stuff kind of shakes to the top. And I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to do with them. And I noticed there was a gap in the way I was helping people. And so I just asked for guidance, what is the way I need to be doing this? Do I become a life coach? Do I become a counselor? Do I do tapping? Like what is for me? And I've always been tapped into my intuition. Well, I won't say always. It's always been there, but I've not always utilized it to the best of its ability. So emotion code entered my life, and I can't even tell you how. It must have been some ad somewhere, because the algorithms are powerful enough that, and I know this is voodoo hoodoo for some people, but the algorithms are smart enough. They can hear what we're thinking. Energy is that powerful. And so this ad showed up. I started to research emotion code, and I read the book. I already own the book, as a matter of fact. So I read the book again, and then took the certification course, and the rest is history. And that's how I got to what I'm doing. That's how I got to what I'm doing. I really have, in the work that I've been doing, have really seen that belief come to fruition. Like the universe and energy and quantum and all of that proves itself to me over and over and over and over every single day, as I work with my clients, and we make these connections about things that happened to them in the past. And I'm learning more about subconscious mind every day, and my own intuition and my own gifts and things that show up for me. It's very exciting.
Yeah. Why don't you give a story of, well, one, maybe tell people what this kind of looks like, because you can do it virtually, right?
I can do
You've
it
had
virtually.
sessions, right, with like this on Zoom.
Exactly.
And it's a conversation, right? Tell them the process looks like, what a session looks like, you know?
Well, when you sit with me, of course, I will explain all of the science, because this is rooted in science, and I'll explain all of that. But once we get going into the session, I can hear. So the way we can do it virtually is I can do it virtually with you on Zoom. I can do it with you here in the room. I can do it. You could be in Japan and not even be on the phone with me, because when I'm connecting, if you've given me permission, I can connect to your subconscious. And it's just as simple as a blink for me to be able to do it. And then I can prove it to you through muscle testing. There's a lot of people, when you read the book, because you can read the body code, it's by Dr. Bradley Nelson, right? You can read it and you can do this all by yourself. And he will teach you all of the different ways that you can muscle test. Well, what I realized was that muscle testing was really just training wheels for my own intuition. But I connect with you and I ask you questions in that moment. I'm you, and I'm asking for you as the client things that we need to know. Are there trapped emotions that we can clear away today? Is there a heart wall? And a heart wall is something else we can talk about. But and what are we going to work on today? Like if you come to me with a list of things that have happened to you in your lifetime, we can ask your subconscious mind, what do you want to work on today? Because healing is not linear. We like to think healing is linear as our ego-based humans, but it's really not, right? So we might show up to the session going, but Marie, I want to work on A, B, and C today. And your subconscious will say, that's so cute that you think you're ready for that, because that's not what we're doing today. We're doing these. And so it's all permission-based, based on your subconscious. I have found that I can drive it a little bit. I can make suggestions. And then I just ask, what is this emotion? Is this, and I have a list, I have a little chart that I show people. There's 60 emotions on it. And what type of trapped emotion is it? There are 6 different types of trapped emotion. And I like to tell people, you're walking around your whole life thinking you're a hot mess. But really, only one of the 6 types of trapped emotions are you responsible for as a human being on this plane of existence this time around. The other 5 of them are from other places. They're absorbed from friends, and they're ancestral, and you've been carrying them from life to life, and they're shared and absorbed and prenatal and all kinds of amazing things that come from your parents. So we identify what type of trapped emotion it is, then we identify which trapped emotion it is, and then I just use an energy push and my intention and my belief that it happens. They teach you to use magnets, because the magnets is also pure energy and magnifies your intention. But I've switched over to a stone or a rock. You can call it a rock or a crystal. It's called Euphorolite. It's a special little brand that comes out of South Dakota. The mine is there. And they're tested for negative ions, and they're just amazing. And this is just as powerful as my magnet. So I've been using this and getting some amazing results. And that just looks like this. It's just the governing meridian, and I just wave it over, and I have this intention, and I'm releasing it. I can visualize the release. Sometimes when I'm releasing, we're joined by animals and colors and people and all kind of amazing things, and just more energy.
So for those of you who are listening, you're like, what? This sounds wackadoodle, right? It's okay.
It does.
It's okay. So she's sitting in a room that she just changed, and tell them the name of the room.
The name of my room, this is my quantum reality chamber.
Quantum reality chamber. So if for those of you who the past couple of years have been a very interesting time, and there's a lot of people that are opening their eyes to seeing things in a very different way and are becoming aware that there's a lot going on here that we can't actually see. And a lot of what we do see with our eyes may be some trickery that's been played upon us, because it's not really real either. And because things we see on a screen, on a TV, from the, like there's a lot of movie making in things that we're being told often are real. So speaking to what all of the new, like say, massive truther movement is what I'm talking about. So a lot of people are looking at the reality of everything like, wait a minute, I think I've been lied to about a lot of things. So if you're in that camp, this might not seem so unreal to you. And if you've been in the holistic community and understanding electromagnetic medicine and understanding that you have an electromagnetic field that we can measure, you are giving off emitting frequency, magnetic fields and photons of light. We can measure the light coming off of you. We can measure how much magnetic pulses coming off of you. And there's a sweet spot. If it's too low, your life force is low. If it's too much, you're kind of blown out and you're discharging too much and you're leaking your energy, basically. I look at, I like the field theory where everything is in the field, like what you're saying, like in terms of the AI being able to pick up thoughts, because everything is in your field. We're picking up things all the time. And with what I do with a lot of stuff is like tell people like, it's not necessarily that you're so sick and broken. It's like, actually, you don't need to add a lot of stuff. We usually just have to remove stuff, the garbage and the junk out of the field that's interfering with the proper function of everything. And that includes, Chinese medicine is used, the meridians kind and chi is their kind of things. Ayurveda has a different form. We have prana, different forms and everything. So Dr. Bradley Nelson has come up with his system based on his lens. And these two systems, work together really well, the body code and the emotion code. And that's the framework you're using. So if any of you are questioning this, get the books, listen to some of his talks, right? But I just wanted you to be aware that there are other things, that your primary care provider, your $10 copay doctor isn't going to tell you about, well, maybe you should look into clearing out some of the stress in your life from some stuck emotions that you have. Maybe that's contributing to the ulcerative colitis or Crohn's flare-up. So I'd love to hear a story, like a success story or some interesting things, like some of your favorite client stories, like, oh, wow, this happened. Because we all have those, like, I never would have thought this would have happened, or this was a great feedback moment.
Yeah, there are so many. Sometimes in a session, something will happen and I have to stop for a moment while my client and I are just like, that really did just happen. One of my favorite stories is I was clearing an inherited trapped emotion, which is exactly what it sounds like. You inherit things from your parents at the moment of conception when you're getting your eye color and how tall you're going to be. And as I cleared the emotion, because for me, I close my eyes and there are things that show up and I get visuals and a lot of other things and information. But when I was clearing this emotion, it was her, and she's young, 23. And the thing about when I clear an inherited trapped emotion, I'm clearing that emotion, not just from you as my client, but I'm clearing that emotion all the way back to where it originated. And it could be 25 generations. And I'm also, if you've gifted it to any of your children, I'm clearing it from them. And it may not seem important, but if we're going to drag it from lifetime to lifetime, we don't want it to propagate, right? So I'm clearing out this inherited trapped emotion from this young girl, and two little tiny orbs of energy show up in my vision. And I say to her when I'm all done, I say, we have been joined by these amazing two little orbs of energy. I've never had that before. I don't know what it is. Does it mean anything to you? And she said, well, I just got back from the obstetrician this morning and I was like, I'm having twins. And I went, so your twins were with us. So that was mind-boggling that I was able to see her twins. I've been able to see, while clearing some ancestral stuff, I had a vision of just a really beautiful cardinal that flashed in front of my eyes. And when I mentioned it to my client, she started weeping because we were clearing something that had belonged to her mother and come through her mother's lineage. And it was her mom. She's like, cardinals are the thing for me and my mother. They've always been a thing for my mom. And so there they were. The things, there are some physical things that have happened. Some of my favorites are a client who, it was a preconception trapped emotion, and they can lodge anywhere in the body, but you've been carrying them your whole life, right? From the moment you were conceived. And so she had said, my foot, my ankle, it was diagnosed as plantar fasciitis. And I cleared it. And a week later, we're talking and I'm going through my notes and asking her how she's feeling. And she said, oh my God, my foot doesn't, holy shit, my foot doesn't hurt anymore. My foot has hurt my entire life. My foot doesn't hurt. And so I thought, well, your entire life, it's been energy sitting there causing you problem, vibrating and doing some things. So we were able to let that go. And those are some, my other favorite is my sister's dog. I did her dog. I had to do it as part of my practicum. And because you have to do animals and you learn how you can talk to animals and horses and those kind of things. And anyway, this dog had been through a lot before my sister got her. She'd been adopted and abandoned and adopted and surrendered and adopted and surrendered. And it turns out she had abandonment issues. And I did some clearing for the animal, and my sister is just absolutely astonished at how much more affectionate the dog is now versus before. She wanted to be in the room with a human, but she didn't want you to touch her. And now not only does she allow it, but she seeks it out. And so those are some of my favorite success stories.
Yeah. For those of you who know and follow, me on Instagram, you often know Axel will photobomb or video bomb lots of things. And when he was dealing with the acute pancreatitis and diabetic ketoacidosis, it's been a rough couple of years with him in and out of the hospital. I have had body code done on him remotely quite a few times. So a good friend of mine just was like, can I please? I'm like, please, like, yes, thank you. As I'm bawling, losing it, like wondering if I'm gonna make it, right? It was very much life and death moments. And I could definitely sense, like you can see it as the owner, like, and when I'm a mess, I can't really work on my own dog myself, I'm like,
right.
Please, somebody help me. Like, I haven't slept in 3 days, right? So yeah, so it is really good for pets. I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people struggle and feel very lost, and you can absolutely do this with animals as well. So yeah, forgot about that. I'm glad you brought that up. So anything coming up that you want to tell people about, like how, anything new you got coming up, any events, and then maybe tell them how to get in touch with you if they resonated and they're like, I don't know, I want to maybe try this.
Well, I've just recently been put in touch with some people. I'm working on speaking engagements here locally. I'll be doing some live things where I go more into depth about emotion code and those types of things, and maybe teach you how to do just a couple of things, and then introduce you to my other gifts during that. I will be speaking on a series called Embrace the Shift. And it's basically for women who are shifting into menopause and embracing all of the things that happen with menopause. And how to address that. My website will be alive soon. You can go to mysticalmarie.com, and it's one of those under construction places, but it's got a link that will take you to my scheduling, and there's a phone number. You can reach out to me there. You can follow me on Instagram at Mystical Marie Guru, and I'm on Facebook as Mystical Marie. All you have to just search Mystical Marie and you'll find those pages. Yeah.
All of this information will be in the description. You don't have to search for it or remember anything that was said. Do you mind if I ask something a little personal?
Sure.
Okay. So people always want to know who they're dealing with, right? So I didn't really introduce you. I know you sent me a bio. I don't like those things. Okay. I don't like blah, 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 blah. I typically don't like any of that. Anything that anybody wrote that sounds scripted, I don't care about it. I met you because you took some of my courses, and you guys, she actually she helps volunteers, like an admin for my 3R Rest, Restore, Reset course. Did you take my master's course too? You took the master's, right? And so she kind of helps out. And so I got to know her. She's very organized. She'll make these sheets and things and does things that I'm like, oh, look at all these, she puts stuff together, right? And as she's been doing this stuff, I'm like, wait a minute. So I had a session. I'm like, oh, let me experience you. And I enjoyed it. And I know what this is, and I adore you. And so I wanted to promote you. But what more has made me resonate with you is something that I can't relate to, and nor do I hope I never, ever actually can relate to what you've been through. And didn't know you before this moment. I only know where you are now. So I didn't see you go through it, but I see how you are today with the tragedy of, as a mother, of losing your child.
Right.
So that helps people to know like who they're really dealing with and what they've been through. Could you speak to that very briefly, and let them know where you come from? And because it does say a lot about why we do what we do from the things that have happened.
It does. And while it doesn't define me, it is a huge piece of who I am, right? And there are certain reactions I might have in certain situations where it's important for you to understand, like in August and September, why I might be less tolerant of bullshit, because August is his birthday and September is when he crossed over. So in those months, I'm not as tolerant as I normally am. But I remember the morning after he passed away, and I said to myself, this is a choice. You have a choice. In this moment, you can be that woman that the people on your block talk about, or that know you, and that in whispered tones, she's the one that never got over losing her son. And let me just tell you that you never get over anything like that, any loss like that. You find a new normal. So the choice was, I could do that, or I could recognize the gift that he was for me while he was here, and know that he chose me and chose to be here, and that he had a mission while he was here, and all of the amazing things that he did in just 16 short years. And so that was the premise of how I began to move forward. I do remember I felt kind of stuck because he died on a Tuesday and the services weren't till Sunday. And you might think that's weird, but I'm like, I just want people to go away so I can begin to move forward and heal and really process the things that have happened to me. Now, I will tell you that when he was alive, the things we watched together were shows like The Ghost Whisperer and, stuff like that. And so at the side of his casket, when I got time to be with him, I invited him to come and see me. And so just said, look, it's not going to scare me. These are the things that we used to enjoy together. So maybe a little bit of look back was maybe it was preparing me for the things that were coming, right? And then I just told him, I love you. I want to hear from you. I want to see you. I know you're always going to be with us. And that was a conversation I had with him sitting at his casket. But then when I got home, I thought, all right, if I'm going to do that, if I've invited him to come here and be with me, then I'm going to want to know that it's him. I'm going to want to be able to hear him. And I'm going to want to be able to translate the things that I hear and see. Now, I'd already had clairaudience, where I can hear things. I hear, I just know, and I can feel things. But I thought, all right, I need to start really developing these skills and really developing these blessings and turn them into strengths and the ability that I have, because I don't want to miss out on the opportunity to continue to connect with him, even though he's not here on this plane and he's on the other side of the veil. Now, my grief comes and goes. It's like anyone else's. It's kind of like the tide, where sometimes it comes in and it's stronger, and sometimes it goes out, and I can have conversations just like we're talking about, please pass the salt. I've done a lot of internal work. I've done a lot of my own emotion code work and my own body code work. And it's a process. It'll be 12 years this year that he's been gone. So what you see before you is the product of work. I do a lot of shadow work and internal work, and the meditation and the prayer and the leaning on faith and just knowing. And so we could say that some positive things came out of it. It inspired me to develop these gifts. It inspired me to do this. I'm sitting right now in what was his bedroom. That's a big deal. Yeah.
I know it's new. So those of you guys don't know, this is brand new that she's gone into this room and turned it into her new office, her reality chamber. Yeah. It's amazing. And if I could talk about my quantum reality chamber, people said, what are you calling it? I would say, oh, it's in the office. It's in the office. And then I started to inhabit the space. And of course I saged in Palo Santo, and there's salt everywhere, and I have a fountain and all of the amazing things that help your energy. But I just wanted to be able to speak it into existence, because I know the things that happen in this room are creation, and quantum is where science and spirit meet, right? And so I'm aware that there's a field and a realm and all of these amazing things. And I wanted, every time I wanted to say, to make a direction, like, oh, can you put it in my X? You're looking for my magnets. Oh, they're in my X. And I didn't want to say office, way too clinical and gross.
I didn't want it to be workspace because I do more than work here. I do creation and healing and digging and shadow work and light work. And there's so much that goes on here. And so one night I went to bed and asked, hey, can you guys tell me what I'm going to be calling this space I'll be sitting and occupying? And when I woke up, I had quantum reality chamber in my head and I just wrote it down. And so that's what it is. So every time I speak it, it speaks it into existence, which is how I became Mystical Marie. But that's a whole other story that people can find out when they talk to me.
Yeah. We'll save that one for the next time.
Yep. They can contact me and find out all about it.
Perfect. I think, there we go. I'll have everything down there, you guys. mysticalmarie.com, Mystical Marie Guru on Instagram. She's not all over social media. She's not spending a ton of time, you guys. I've actually tried to coach her a little bit. I'm like, it's okay. Let me tell you how to do it, But at the end of the day, if you don't, and I believe this deeply, whatever business you own, and this, you guys, you kind of just left the corporate world too. So there's a lot going on here, right? A lot of okay, I'm really doing it. Even though she's been doing it on the side a long time, it's like this, let me trust in myself and the universe and have enough faith in the quantum reality chamber that I can just do this. If you don't love what you're doing when you're doing whatever you're called to do, you either outsource it or just stop doing it. I'm like, it's not necessary. It isn't necessary to do social media to build your business. It isn't necessary. I'm like, if it can be a tool that you'll enjoy and you can leverage, it can help you have a bigger impact, great. Otherwise it doesn't matter. And you can get people like me to talk about you and show you out there. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it like that. So this will be on YouTube and it will go on Instagram, Marie, and we're going to leave it at that. The boys will edit things out. At the end, we're good to go. I'll leave it with this. Any final message, favorite mantra, or anything like that you want to leave the people with?
Oh my gosh, I have so many favorite mantras. Okay, one of the pieces of advice that I give my clients at the end of every session is if you feel the need to analyze, breathe. Because while you're breathing, you can't be emotional. You can't analyze. The other thing I also tell people is if you feel the need to be emotional. The sooner you let it out, it's really just energy. That emotion is a frequency. It's a frequency that you're feeling. It's feedback, but let it out. When you let that emotion out, whether it's weepy or angry or frustrated, and give it its moment in the sun, it leaves so much faster than if you try to stuff it, where it will become cancer and disease. So just let it out.
You just gave me, you inspired something in me. I should make a t-shirt out of this. Something like this. Emotions are like farts. They're better out than in.
Perfect. Maybe that'll be my mantra.
It hurts if you're holding in a fart. Everybody knows this. You're like,
everybody knows that.
Right? This is not working. And you go and you're like, oh my God, I feel so much better.
Yeah, do it sooner rather than later. And then
I love it. I love it. On that note, we're making t-shirts.
That's perfect.
All right, girl. Have a beautiful day. She's in Glendale, Arizona. I want to mention that. I'll have people say locally because there's a lot to be said for in person. I'm a big fan of. I know we can do anything remotely and virtual. I work on people all across the planet. I can do many things like that, but let me tell you, I really much rather have the person in front of me and be in the actual space and exchanging. Whether that's the limitations of my mind, I don't know, but I like it. So I suggest visiting, going into the quantum reality chamber where you can actually hold space with another human and actually connect in this version of whatever reality simulation that we're in. I have no idea at this point. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a beautiful day.
All right. Bye.
Bye. All right. You good?
Yes.